Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. I'm Beatriz Mourad, and today I'm joined by April Collins.
Hi there.
And Delaney Stovall.
Hey y'all.
Today we will be recapping the third and fourth episodes of Shira Season 3, Once Upon a Time in the Waste, and Moment of Truth, which dropped along with the rest of the season earlier this month. Warning, all of us have seen Season 3 in its entirety. We will be discussing these episodes and how they interact with the rest of the season, as well as the rest of the show. So spoilers for everything in Season 3, but especially for these two episodes. You can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes. You can follow us on Spotify. The link is on our website. Or you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. All right, so what are your thoughts on these two episodes?
So these episodes there's a lot in them. I really enjoy like the Catra and Scorpia sort of like taking over the Crimson Waste. Like that's really fun. I liked that. There's a lot going on with like Adora and like honestly, I literally just watched these episodes last night again for I don't know what time, and I can't remember any of the stuff with like Adora. I know she gets captured. Yeah, like it kind of like sat on the back burner, which I think is like a completely different reaction than I had from like the first time like watching these episodes. So it like that's just like an interesting observation for me is that like I was like, oh, like I can't like I remember she gets captured and by Catra at the end of like episode 3, and then we go into episode 4, and like Glimmer has the whole thing where she's fighting with her mom and all of that. But like I just don't I don't know. I don't know what it was. I feel like I was more like involved in like the other things that were going on. Like I thought like the Shadow Weaver stuff was actually pretty interesting. The Entrapta stuff was very in Hordak. Was, you know, precious in and of itself. And then, of course, like Catra and Scorpia sort of stole the show. So that's my, like, general thoughts on these two episodes. Like, I feel bad admitting, like, oh, I don't really remember Adora. So
that's really... Well, we got to meet Mara for the first time!
Like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah!
But yeah, like I will say like that whole like meeting like Mara was very interesting. Like there's a lot that like to take away from it, and maybe because like upon my second time watching, I was just like I was like, this is like an information dump for me. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, but I'm excited to talk about them. So
okay,
yay.
Okay. Well, I'm it's like a lot happened. I agree. These two episodes are very not Adora heavy, I guess. I mean, I feel like this entire season isn't too Adora heavy. A lot of it has been very much on other characters. I feel like that's because if we focus too much on Adora, then it's like we have to get answers for Adora.
Yeah, and the I guess like in season 2, we did focus like there was a heavier focus on Adora, I felt.
Yeah.
So like this is kind of like the other half of that kind like situation. And I believe like whenever we talked about season 2, I guess one of my things was like, oh, like I wish we were doing more with the other characters. And so that like that call was answered within this season. So
Gotcha. What about you, Delaney? What are your general thoughts on this episode?
So both of them are just episode 3?
Just both of them. Just general thoughts.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, episode 3 is incredible. I think it's one of the best episodes of Shira, and it's so good. So it's such a, it's not that I don't like Catra, but I'm not like the number one Catra fan. That's my girlfriend. But it's such a great episode, and it's also one of those, it has a very strong A and a very strong B plot. And it goes together so well. We get to meet Huntara. I mean, come on. And
well, we met Huntara is in episode 2.
Oh, Right. Sorry, all of these bleed together because, you know, you binge watch it and it's like, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
But, I mean, you get Catra takes over the wastes, and then, I don't know, it's great getting to see Catra and these, like, because, you know, but all of last season was kind of, Catra was part of a ensemble.
Right.
You had to have Entrapta and Scorpia, and so it was nice to see Catra and Scorpia on their own, and it was super cute and super gay, obviously. And then we do, like April said, we get this info dump with Mara. And I thought that went really well. Like, it doesn't, sometimes things can be exposition heavy, but we're far enough into the show now. But I mean, it's done well. And I don't think it takes too long. Like, I don't think they drag it out or that it was anticlimactic or anything, because, I mean, there's still a lot of mystery, but, you know, everything you've been told is that Mara was the bad guy. Even though the whole time you're like, Light Hope is the sketchiest person ever.
And we'll talk about that message, because there is room for interpretation in that message.
Yeah, there's so much sketchiness going on, and then you get to see Mara, and it's great. And I mean, the ship is cool. There's just a lot of interesting things going on. And I mean, we just blew up the world. We've expanded everything that's happened.
Yeah.
And then, of course, episode 4, like, we literally blow up the world. Like straight up, that's what we do. And I know your notes are, like, really funny. So we have an outline, and it's just like you get to episode 4, and it's like, is this an actual episode outline, or is it just Beatriz yelling about Entrapta? But
I thought I held back. All right.
I mean, but it's. Again, episode 4 is a great. Episode 4 is also a great episode. Not that I ship them, but Hordak and Entrapta are adorable and definitely a highlight of the episode, because we're really adding some humanity to Hordak, and we find out more about him. And we get, and of course, in all of this, Shadow Weaver is again being the sketchy person she is. She's so sketchy, and I'm like, believe her, but also don't. So there's a lot of tension in these episodes, and I think it pays off really well, and it's executed well. And generally, I mean, honestly, I can't think of these are 7 episodes, and I can't think of one that I didn't like. And 3 and 4 are probably some of the strongest of the 7. Gotcha. So I mean, overall, these episodes were just really great, and you know, we're dealing with a lot of plot movement in these 2 episodes. A lot of plot movement, everything happens in these 2 episodes, basically. Yeah. And I don't think it goes too fast, and I think we hit everything properly. Like, I don't think there's anything that really, like, doesn't get enough time to sit, or, you know, gets too long to sit. Like, I think everything, because right here, this is where everything just goes nuts.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's interesting you guys say it's like an info dump with Mara, because I didn't think it was that much of an info dump. Maybe it's because I'm used to Fruits Basket, which is very exposition heavy, which is very much like each episode's an info dump somewhat. Whereas with this, I was like, we don't even get the full message. It's a lot of stuff that we kind of already knew, or we get her voice. I didn't think it was an info dump. I thought it was just like info.
I think it's like because the info is very like impactful.
Right.
Versus like, you know what I mean? And so like that's like sort of weighs heavy. And even though it's not a lot, it's like, it's a lot to the plot, if that makes any kind of sense. Especially like the whole thing with like Mara, and how like she, you know, everyone sort of like, you know, told the story of how she's like crazy and like she moved the planet and she's this like terrible human being, but really, or whatever, first one. But like really what she was doing was saving everyone. So like, I mean, like for me at least, that's kind of like a huge deal, especially because like the entirety of the show has been like Adora trying to not be, you know, Mara, and right. Like that's like her focus is she's like, I don't want to go crazy, like, you know, I don't want to end up like her, but like that's kind of who she needs to end up being. So it kind of like tips it tips your perspective of what's happening. So, and I think that's probably like, that's what I mean whenever I say like it's a little bit of an info dump, just because like there's so much weight to it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. But let's dive into episode 3, which is, I think that's the funnest of the two. But even then, it's not that fun because what I find so fun, I mean, if we break it up into the two plots, right? Plot A, which is with Scorpia and Catra, and then plot B is what Adora and her friends are doing. I mean, if we just focus on plot A for a second, even though we have, for a lot of it, it's just basically Catra takes over the Crimson Waste with a lot of relative ease. I don't want to talk about Tongue Lasher that much, but, and it's a lot of cute moments with her and Scorpia. We get these, like, what's most interesting for me, because all that stuff is kind of like fluff. It's like, it's all a lot of fun, not a lot of weight to it, though. For me, it's like those little moments of insight into Catra's psyche at that at that moment. So, for instance, like, when we get, like, her, like, intimidation speech, right? They enter the cantina from Star Wars, and Scorpia reacts just like Bo and Glimmer, which is actually really funny. Just being like, no, let's not, like, these people are scary. Let's, like, not anger them. And Catra just has this crazy intimidation speech where she just, like, says, like, she's lost everything and she doesn't care. And it just gets a, like, really interesting insight into her psyche, because she says, I've had a bad life. And it's, like, automatically already getting a sense of, she doesn't blame herself for anything that's happened to her. She doesn't blame herself for her situation. She's just like, this is all things that have befallen on me, and I'm just having to survive. Like, I am blameless in my situation. And it's like, to a certain extent, she can't be blamed for her certain situation. But, like, certain things she's done, at least up to this point, like, she's done things and made bad decisions that have caused her to be sad and miserable. And it's really interesting how this is already starting to set up her continuous victimization of herself. And it's really starting to set up what we see later in the final episode with Adora being like, no, calling her out on it. So that's something that was really interesting. But what kind of stood out to you guys in terms of Catra and Scorpia? Like, what in this episode in particular, like, in terms of, like, the shifts in dynamic, what brought insight to you from them? Because for me, it was that speech. But I'm curious about what you think.
It was just interesting to, like, I enjoyed it. And, I mean, I think we all have, our issues with Catra, especially, like, the decisions she makes and everything. And she definitely sees herself as a victim. Like, there's no denying that, especially, like, as we continue to, watch the rest of the season. That's very much, like, the role she's put herself into. But, like, in this episode, it's kind of nice because, again, like, we get to see Catra, like, in sort of like a no pressure situation. Right. And she just, like, opens up in that moment. And that's what I enjoy about this episode, is just kind of getting to see, like, Catra, like, open up. Like, she even warms up to Scorpia, who up until this point, like, she had been very cold to, despite, Scorpia's best efforts. And so, and Scorpia even says, like, oh, like I get to see you happy. Like, let's stay here, because that, like, she hasn't been happy, and here she is happy for once. And, again, it's a no pressure situation. She's not trying to, like, live up to Adora or live up to Hordak or whoever's, like, opinion of her. And, like, I find that very insightful. Again, I mean, because we already knew she was the victim. Like, she gives herself the title of victim. And so just seeing her, like, loosen up and just, like, not care is kind of, like, it's thrilling to see a character, like, go through that, like, and who wouldn't, like, want to be able to be like,
or scary?
Both. But like, I wish I could just, like, walk into a bar and just be like, all right, who wants to pick a fight with me? Like, anybody, because I don't care or whatever. So, like, that's, like, a very insane and, like, admirable thing to do.
Well, maybe. I don't really think it's insane.
No, but
I think that's what's so compelling about it, is that, at least as someone who has struggled with depression, to see that, like, just on full display, this whole, like, attitude of not caring, and this, it's like there's no self-preservation, none.
Yeah.
She has absolutely none. And that's, I mean, I think that was probably what got me the most, was just her attitude.
Yeah.
Because I can't even think of a time in animation or honestly any show where I've seen that. Because this isn't just like, sometimes you'll see things where it's like, do you have any idea of self-preservation? But but in this case, it's not heroic. It's not.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no, like, she does not care. Mm-hmm. And it's startling and disturbing. And I think that's like what's so compelling about it, especially in a show that's directed to children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing. Yeah,
well,
no, it's.
I think also, like, for like a kid show, it captures that like feeling and that emotion very well too.
No, it does. It's absolutely, it's like dead on.
Yeah, because like that. Well, and like you use the word disturbing, and I feel like if it hadn't been so well portrayed, then it wouldn't have come off that way. It would just come off like almost stupid, if that makes sense.
Thing. Well, the thing is, you're not supposed to watch that and think Catra's a bad person. You watch that and you feel terrible for her. Right. You're like, oh my God. Because that's how because that's the thing. I don't hate Catra. I feel bad for her, like so bad for her. And it's not even that, I mean, she does things that are frustrating, but she just almost can't help herself.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what is so compelling about, like, that's really, I think, what really sets Shira apart is that, yes, you have these characters who were best friends and now they're they are opposing forces. But to see the polar opposite in a way, and then also Adora, like, they still care about each other so much.
Mm-hmm.
But this this complete disregard for self-preservation and this, I mean, it's just heartbreaking because we know everything Catra's gone through and we've seen it and we see all these people around her and Adora got out.
Yeah.
But Catra's stuck. And I think that's the part that is just so, I mean, devastating to watch. And I think, it's going to be in game, but it's not that I particularly ship it, but there's a reason all of this is so compelling.
Right. I mean, I will say, when going back to what I said earlier about like she gives herself the title victim, I don't think that's like a weakness of writing or anything. That like that's what makes her like that is an inherent flaw of hers, and that's what makes her character that much more relatable, that much more like compelling to see. Because
it's one of those because the thing is she is the victim and she's not, because she is the victim of her circumstances, like, and it's not her fault or anyone else's fault that Adora left.
Right.
And yes, Catra can be mad about it, and she has every right to be, but it's the things that come after that are her choice.
Exactly.
And this, I don't know, it's complicated, because that's the thing. It's one of those, you can blame people for things all you want, and say they're not helping themselves, or this, and this, but Catra is ultimately a victim of the Horde. That's what she is. She is a victim of the Horde. Granted, that doesn't, same thing with Adora, and we haven't really explored it as much, but granted, the thing is, Adora got out before she did something horrible.
Right.
Yeah.
Catra has done those horrible things. And
in fairness, the very first episode, Adora tells her, "Hey, come with me," and gives her out. She makes the choice that she has no.
Yeah, she chooses to stay.
So that's the thing.
It's like there's multiple times to stay too.
Yeah, right. No, that's the thing. That's the thing, because she is a victim of her, indoctrination and everything she's been through. But when given the chance, she could not do it.
Right, and then there is that question of, it's like, well, is that because her indoctrination works so well with her, where it didn't with Adora, and that is why she's incapable of making the right choice because of the situation that she was brought up in.
And that's the thing here, when she pulls, like, when she does it, when she creates the portal.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though everyone told her not to, and that it would ruin the world, this is like complete madness at this point. Because she would rather see the world burn than let Adora win. Now that is her fault.
Yeah, like that is. I think that's what's like really crucial of like this episode and episode 3 and episode 4, because episode 3 when she finds out that Shadow Weaver left to see Adora, and then 4 is
it breaks her.
It breaks her. Like this, like that episode. People will make the argument that it's when she flips the switch. That is the moment that she's hit rock bottom, that's what breaks her. But no. That happened in episode 3 when she finds out that Shadow Weaver left to see Adora. Like, that's when there was, like, because that's when she
decided. Back. Yeah, that was the thing. That was the moment she realized that there was, like, she decided that there was nothing left for her.
Exactly.
I think I would like to say that for Catra, at least throughout the entirety of the story, because I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a flip, like a switch that's being flipped, but I like to think of it as like those dimmer lights. You know what I mean? Like
just getting slowly darker and darker.
Getting darker and darker and darker. Because I feel like there's a lot of different points that have
it all leaves together.
Yeah, like it all like flows together, and so that's why like I'm like, yeah, you could say like it's like her like flipping a switch, but I like it really in my head I'm like it's a dimmer light, because like it's been like a very like progressive moment.
Well, that's why it's so compelling. Like this is we see her descend into madness.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. But let's talk about, so that's Catra. Let's talk about Catra and Scorpia, because I think one of the geniuses of this episode 3 is you give Catra everything she wants, right? Like you give her, she succeeds in, granted it's in the Crimson Waste, but she succeeds taking over something and becoming the ruler of the Crimson Waste, becoming like all powerful, super influential. Like she's done it in the span of a day. She and Scorpia, like she's finally able to open up to Scorpia. She's having fun. Her and Scorpia are blushing. She gives Scorpia a jacket. She's like toasting to Scorpia. All this incredibleness happening. And yet she still says no to it. And I think that's the genius of the episode. Not only that, but that shows just that revelation of Shadow Weaver. It shows how she's still so tied to, and it adds to like her being the victim of her situation. It just adds to the cycle of abuse that Shadow Weaver kind of dug into her.
Well, it's also that everything. That's not what she wants, and that's the part of it too.
Right? Yeah.
She gets this, and then later, I mean, and of course, this is later. That I think it's episode 5, 6.
Yeah.
When she's when they're all in the messed up world, and she's telling Adora, like, yeah, this is what we've always wanted. We're going to take over the world. And Adora's like, I don't want that. And then Catra's like, yeah, that's what you want. And it's like, is that what Catra wants? Because I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. She doesn't know what she wants. And she's faced with what she thinks she should want. And she doesn't take it because she doesn't want that. Catra wants a family. She just wants that's what she wants.
She wants someone to care about her.
The Catra shipper will say Catra wants Adora, but the non-shipper will be like, no, that's what she wants is family. Well, you can make the argument like that's what Scorpia is offering her, right? And at that point she still isn't capable of forming that thought. Even she thinks, no, I'm still tied to what I was told to want.
Like she's a horde captain, and she needs to
right.
And of course, part of this is also just proving herself to Hordak.
Right.
Doing what Adora could never do.
See, but I don't know if it's proving to Hordak. I think it's like she wanted to prove to Shadow Weaver. Like I think Hordak isn't like the one that she's constantly trying to please or trying to prove wrong. I think it's Shadow Weaver, the one that she's constantly trying to. That's who it is, because that's the parental figure. Right.
Well, I would even argue that, like, at this point, I would say that it's not just like Hordak or Shadow Weaver. Like, she's just trying to prove to anyone that she's capable of doing whatever. And the other interesting part of it too is that, like, she goes out and it's like she's trying to prove she's capable to everyone but herself, because she just refuses to almost accept that, like, because she literally goes out and like conquers the Crimson Waste, and she's still like, nope, this isn't it. And it's like, but you did, like, you conquered something. That's what you had been setting out to achieve. And yet that's still not enough it's not enough for anyone but you at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with Catra, it's like she, and this is why I find the parallels between her and Hordak so interesting, especially now knowing Hordak's backstory, is they both want to prove that they're worth something, right? And that they're not worthless. And that, like, for Hordak, he wants to prove that he's not worthless, that he's more than just a defect. With Catra, she wants to prove that she's worth staying for. She's worth staying back for. Like, I feel like with her, it's more like, it's like, who cares about what's good or bad or what's wrong and right? Adora, you should stay with me because I am worth all the bad that comes with the Horde.
Yes.
Right? Like, I feel like that's what it is. So she wants someone who would be willing to stay behind, but it's not even someone. She wants Adora and Shadow Weaver she wants Shadow Weaver to say that she's worth it, that she's done well, and she wants Adora to stay with her. Because you have Scorpia, who's willing to give her all those things.
Yep.
And that's still not enough. And that brings me to my second question, which is, does episode 3, does that, like, destroy the Scorpia Catra ship? And I'm not saying that we're not going to see, like, more, like, moments in the future, but I'm saying, like, the possibility of an actual relationship, because here is Scorpia giving her an option, giving herself as an option, like, let's just stay, like, this is Scorpia basically being like, am I enough for you? And Catra says no, basically. Like, that Scorpia will never, like, when you have Shadow Weaver and Adora involved, Scorpia's never gonna level up to that. So it's like, what, for you, like, what does this say about their relationships? Because we get so many moments, but at the end, I feel like we get the tombstone in a way.
I mean, yeah. I guess it just depends on where cause, like, I would like to think that Scorpia is going to be a strong enough person to admit that, okay, like, this is a lost cause kind of situation. Because like, she's constantly putting out all of this love and affection for Catra, but Catra is not, like, reciprocating. And then even still, like
she does reciprocate.
She does for, like, a moment, but then, like, it's almost like as soon as, like, it's pointed out to her, she's like, well, no, like, I wouldn't do that because I'm Catra and I'm a victim. But so, because, like, it like, I guess that's also, like, where again, I know, like, it's circling back to Catra, but that's also, like, where part of my problem is that she's just not willing to accept love. And so I need Scorpia to see that this person is not willing to accept your love and someone else deserves it more than they do. Like, I understand Catra is a victim and, like, she has a lot going on and she obviously needs help, but, like, you can't, you're not, like, you can't help them. And at a certain point she's becoming an enabler. So, you know, versus, like, being like, no, like, we can't do this. But again, like, Catra's so far gone that, like, there's no stopping her either. So it's just sad. I just want the best for Scorpia at a certain point.
I don't think it's over.
You don't think so?
I don't think so either, which makes me sad.
Well, to me, it's more, and I know, you know, it's hard to talk about this stuff without shipping stuff, but
yeah,
it's not that, I mean, I do think we're going to end up with a bunch of gays everywhere. Like, this is going to be, like, lesbian central at the end of the show. But I don't think it's going to be, I don't think Catra and Adora will be together romantically because Adora is obsessed with Adora. Catra, I meant. Catra is obsessed with Adora. Right. That's not okay. Like, y'all need to, like, calm down.
I mean, you can make the argument that Adora is also obsessed with Adora. Because I don't think she's right now even thinking about romance in that sense. She's figuring herself out.
Well, that's the thing. But, like, I think the thing with what Catra feels about Adora is not healthy. Like, at all.
Right. Yeah.
And I think kind of what hopefully will happen with Hordak and Catra is that they will go on this, will figure, like, they are both obsessed with something and they have to let it go. And that, they will, figure out that they can go and find what they need. They can get that. And I think, like, that would be, like, and the thing is, it's hard to, and I talked about this on the podcast for the overall Shira podcast, that it's hard to imagine how Catra could be redeemed so that Adora and Catra could be together.
Right.
Because Catra has done horrible things. And she has done horrible things to Adora.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, this isn't just, like, some of these things are not, and I do believe Catra is not a good person. Like, I don't think that can, like, even if she gets what she wants, like, Catra doesn't care about other people. She doesn't care about, like, she wants what she wants. And that's fine. You can be a selfish person. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is not who Adora is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
go ahead.
And I just, like, and it's not that, and I mean, Scorpia is way too good for everybody. But, Scorpia still likes Catra in spite of that. And I think that's really my girlfriend is sighing listening to me talk about it. She is, like, the biggest so, like, anytime, because I ship Glimmerdora, so we get into arguments. It's great. But, like, I just think that, I do think the key here will be, I honestly hope that Scorpia saves Catra. Like, I want Catra to save herself. But then on top of that, Scorpia's not going to give up on Catra. Adora has given up on Catra.
Right.
Like, that's what this is. At the end, she has given up, which is good for Adora because they all need a break. Everybody, take a nap, guys.
I mean, but I will say that on the flip side, it's not just that Catra's done horrible things to Adora and all this stuff. Like, Adora's not good for Catra either.
No,
like,
exactly. No, I agree
because
with this.
Catra's too obsessed. Because you're right, Catra's so obsessed with Adora, but she's obsessed with her in the way where it's like she's constantly comparing herself to Adora.
Right.
She sees it as a competition of who is better. She can't live happily as number 2. She can't. And for her, Adora's always going to be number 1 and she's number 2. So I think that's where the problem is that, at least in terms of, it's not just, Catra's too selfish or is not a good person and that is why Adora can't be with her because they're not compatible and Adora's too good. It's also, Adora's not good for Catra and Adora isn't capable because Adora's so, like, has kind of tunnel vision. She's very much like, okay, well, this is what's good, this is what's bad. She is incapable of seeing. Like, she's so concerned about the greater good that she thinks that I don't think she realizes the harm she causes Catra. And I don't know if she's capable of realizing it. I don't know if someone points it out to her, she would see it as wrong. Maybe, because she'd be like, I don't understand. Like, we work together. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Adora sees it as a competition. As, like, she doesn't see that competitiveness. Like, in terms of, like, she doesn't see her relationship with her, at least in the beginning, she never was like, Adora, I have to be first.
Well, the thing is, Adora cannot accept that Catra is bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, Catra is not the same person Adora is, and Catra is not anywhere like... Bo and Glimmer and Adora are good people. They care about other people. They care... Like, they don't have... Like, they're compassionate, generous. They care about other people. They, like, it's not even just, like, I mean, general compassion. Like, there's not just, caring about people you care about, like that you love or that you have a bond to. Like, they care about other people. Like, they want to protect the world from the Horde.
Right.
Yeah.
And Catra will never care about anyone other than what's hers and her. Like, that's it. That's all. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. You can be like that, but that can never work out for Catra and Adora because Adora will ultimately think there is something wrong with Catra. And vice versa. Like, Catra's like, you're an idiot. You're a naive idiot. And Adora's like, you're a mean person. Like, you can't. And that's the other thing. Catra's mean. like, and Adora's so nice.
I mean, I agree. Yeah. And also the whole, like, I think that you hit it there where it's like Adora will always see, like, she cannot accept that side, that like Catra's selfishness, and that comes off as being like morally superior.
Right.
And that superiority that she carries, that air of superiority, is what causes Catra to have this crippling self-esteem issues where she thinks she's worthless and she thinks she's less than. And that's where it stems from. And that's why I'm like, yeah, because Adora's not healthy for Catra either. And that's where the compatibility issues start.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like you mentioned, Delaney, like Adora cares not just for, she cares for everyone, and but especially for like people that like she loves and like has some type of relationship with, and so I
think that stunned Entrapta.
Yeah.
Well, like she stunned Entrapta, like for no reason, when really like Entrapta like saved her.
She did. Entrapta saved
multiple times. And so, but that's
Adora and them. I feel so bad for Entrapta. Like Adora and them did leave Entrapta, but to be fair, they didn't know.
Right? They didn't know she was alive,
and that's the horrible thing. And which it's also really frustrating. I know why the show's doing it. It's because Entrapta can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, they're different. but it feels the same.
Yeah. But like the other thing is that like why they're not good together is because Adora cares about Catra. Catra doesn't even care about Catra. So that instantly in and of itself.
And Catra doesn't care about Adora.
Yeah.
She wants Adora. Like Adora is something to have.
Yes.
Right.
My girlfriend is getting like irritated. It's great.
Sorry, not sorry, but
I can like feel her getting next to me. It's the best.
But that's the thing though, like that causes like so much stress on a relationship when one person cares and the other person doesn't care. And so like it's just not healthy, it's not sustainable. And
it's not, I don't even think they could like change each other.
Yeah.
Because there's that appeal of like, oh, the good one and the bad one.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's like, no, like there is no deep down good in Catra. Like Catra's what you see is what you get. Now I do think that she could be like less cruel. She's done things out of desperation, but Catra is not like a nice person.
No,
and that's fine. Like they are both valid people, and I like both of them.
Well, what is it with Catra as well? Like something to further prove that she just doesn't care, and is because like even when like, and she doesn't care about herself too, is because like Scorpia pointed out that she was happy and she was like, well great, I'm gonna go after Adora and make myself miserable now. Like she like purposefully, like literally Scorpia's like, it's nice seeing you happy, and she's just like, well great, now we're going to Hordak again, and it's like, but why? Like, you weren't happy there. Like, Scorpia just told you that, and you know that. So,
how many times can you kidnap your so-called best friend? Like,
right. Yeah. Let's talk about that best friend. Let's move away from Catra for a second, and let's talk about that message that we get from Mara. Because Adora is going through. She's been having breakdowns consistently, which is constant, like the revelation that she's a first one.
Just give that baby a hug, please.
It's like she asks, like it's, and they're heartbreaking questions. She's screaming, and I love how this how visually it was set up, because she's screaming is at the message of that Shira hologram, and that's what she's screaming towards, is like, why was I taken from my family? Why was I forced to become a soldier? She's desperate for things, and she's screaming at the Shira, and then we finally get the real Mara, and we get her message. And side question. So you know how Shira is presented to us. She's still Adora though. She still has the expressions or whatever. But then here we see Mara and Shira, like at least like Mara Shira, like there was like a very vast difference between Mara the person and Mara the Shira's Mara, or Mara Shira. Yeah. So I'm curious of like how we're supposed to take in Adora of like, and how Adora's Shira and Adora herself are different. That's like kind of an interesting kind of thing to think about.
Well, that's the thing. We haven't like considered, like, that's something we haven't explored at all because, take Avatar for example, which the show takes a lot of inspiration from Avatar. So you have like Aang, he and Korra, and then, entering the Avatar state. They are not the same people anymore. They are consumed, well, not Korra, because annoying things happen. But they are, consumed by, like, going into the Avatar state, you are now all the Avatars. You are the embodiment of all the past lives.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of in tune with, like, kind of the spirit world and everything that's going on. And then Adora just shifts in and out of Shira. And she doesn't act any different. Like, Adora is Adora, all in both ways. So it's interesting she just gets bigger and she like hits you. Like that's it. And so it would be interesting to explore because, it's not, which I mean, that's also curious, maybe because she hasn't completed her training in that, if she does complete her so-called training with Light Hope, because that's what they say, right? Shira's a weapon.
So you think it's going to be more like the minute, like, if there's any sense of personality, then it means that they haven't completed their training. And it's once you're Shira and you're like a master Shira, it's kind of like, you've reached enlightenment. You have no sense of attachments. And you're just like Shira. Right.
It could also just be like a product, like it could be an idea that's like a product of how Mara handled being Shira.
Well, and also she knew about other Shiras. Like she thought she was going to be the last Shira. So like, there was this collective knowledge and understanding of what Shira was. And then Ron here, and they're like, what's a Shira?
Yeah.
Right.
And like, there are myths and they've heard things, but there isn't that collective knowledge. And so now we know that like, this isn't like the home planet of Shira.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting, I think, to explore that more. This, what is Shira supposed to be? Because Adora's trying to figure that out and no one has the answer.
Right.
I know. Poor baby. She needs like an encyclopedia or something.
Yeah, for real.
All right, the internet. This is a great way to lead into in the real message from Mara. It jumps back and forth. It's not perfect, but she says they can't use the weapon, and she doesn't specify the they. Like she tells us the portal, like she confirms that the portal is a bad idea, all this stuff, but she goes like, no, I had to get away from them. Like they can't use the weapon or whatever, and I'm thinking. Is she talking about the Horde or is she talking about like Light Hope and the first ones? Because who are the people who are painting Mara as a bad person? Light Hope and whoever Light Hope is behind. Like she says she failed, she did something horrible. So the question is like, okay, well maybe Mara wasn't running away from say like the Horde. What if Mara was running away from first ones? And this is why, because here's the thing. Basically, first ones were like colonizers who landed on Etheria. And they're like, quote, we came to like research and understand the magic. But it's like, you're called first ones, for one. And what else were you, really? You expect me to think that you were just coming here just purely for like environmental purposes?
It's like Homeworld. It's like the gym. It's like the gym.
Yeah.
Right. So then my thing is like, is it, what if the first ones are the Horde? Or what if they're both bad? You know what I mean? So, like, this is interesting kind of thing. Like, how much more sketchy is Light Hope now? After finally hearing Mara's side, at least part of Mara's side of the story.
I mean, Light Hope was already, like, super
she's already sketchy. But now, how much more? Like, does this, like, confirm sketchiness? Or are you...
No, we're watching this, and me and my girlfriend are like, Light Hope's evil. Like,
gotcha.
Which we already knew, but she's so sketchy.
Well,
and this does raise an interesting question, too, is that, we see the Horde, like, the actual Horde, not the little baby Horde Hordak has.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, if they've taken over the universe, where are the first ones?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of interesting because this is kind of, in Voltron, you have the Galvan Empire and then like this tiny little resistance. and Voltron is the savior. But here, it's like, I don't know who's who or what's going on. Like, what are the first ones trying to do? And I think Light Hope's the piece here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am beginning to believe that Shira's the weapon.
Yeah.
I wonder if...
also, why is she the key to the planet? Like, what did y'all do?
Yeah, what did you do to the planet? Like, I think it was like I definitely can buy into like the idea of like the first ones were actually just trying to colonize the planet, and then I think it's like one of those things where like the Horde showed up as a result of that, and so they were like, okay, well, this planet is a lost cause. We're gonna get out of here, and perhaps like Mara was the one who was just like, well, we can't just leave this planet. You know what I mean? Like,
or maybe the planet's the weapon, because I mean, she's Shira, so she's like getting rid of Shira, but also she took the entire planet with her.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the planet's the weapon. Maybe like it's
because they talk a lot about
the two.
They talk a lot about the energy and the the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like, I'd buy into that. Like, I feel like the Horde's, like, based off that, like, the Horde's just kind of like a, like, almost kind of like an afterthought. Like, they were just like, oh yeah, like, the Horde happened, but they're not the real reason why, like, we left, or, you know what I mean? Like, there could be something, like, so much deeper that, like, we haven't even gotten into yet. So.
Yeah.
Well, and then we're only dealing with like petty nonsense at this point, like just stuff on like Etheria, and then meanwhile there's this whole other universe that they didn't even know about going on.
Yeah. Well, and that one also kind of like I wonder too if because we were talking about how like Adora kind of is still herself, even though even when she's Shira, but like with Mara, it seems like she's kind of a different person when she's Shira, and so I wonder if that was almost like something that Mara did on purpose, because she didn't want people to know that she was Shira,
right?
So she
literally
was like,
everybody knows Adora is Shira.
Yeah,
so.
Right.
So I wonder if it was one of those like. Maybe like a little bit of a self-preservation, but also in a way so she could, because, she said that her intention was like, I'm going to be the last Shira. And so I wonder if in part of that, she was like, okay, like when I'm Shira, I'm a complete, like it was like a secret identity situation.
Gotcha.
So like, she's like,
they even tried, they tried for a little bit to keep it a secret in the beginning of the show.
Yeah. So, I mean, they tried, but
it literally lasted approximately 10 minutes,
like 30 seconds, probably.
Yeah. Poor sweet Adora. She doesn't know what she's doing. but so, like, that would also, again, like, sort of help fuel that idea that, like, okay, the first ones were up to something sketchy, like, and then that's why, like, Mara gets painted as a villain versus, like, being a savior or a hero to these people. Or at least to maybe like the first ones, which again would explain because Light Hope, I guess, is some type of crazy AI computer. And she like, that's why she's just like, oh yeah, Mara's so evil. You don't want to be evil, do you? Like, do what I say. Nope. Super sketchy. Okay. I just keep convincing myself. It's fine.
Super sketchy.
All right, well, moving on from episode 3, let's talk about episode 4. Here's, like, for me, the biggest weakness of the episode, and maybe it's because, for me, like, Shadow Weaver's never been a character that I've been super invested in, super interested in, but the whole kind of plot of just, like, Glimmer fights with her mom because, for valid reasons, her mom is upset, Glimmer, once again, does something without telling her, and then Adora's missing now when she comes back, and then Huntara's there, and no one, like, I feel like Huntara needed to be more present, and she wasn't. But, this is, like, the kind of the weakest part, which is just Glimmer and her mom and that tension of just, like, wanting to let go, not letting go, not trusting each other, but Glimmer doesn't give her a reason to trust her, and it's just a very interesting thing. I just wanted,
it's heartbreaking because in the end, they never get to resolve it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but what I mean is, like, even though it's heartbreaking, I don't think they build up Angela enough for it to be as heartbreaking as it could have been.
No, they don't.
No.
I feel like it was completely undeserved. Like, I'm like, cool, you just did that.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, kind of.
But
like,
I think they
even
did
with
it
this
because
fight,
I do think we're getting Angela and Micah back. But
oh yeah, I mean, I have no
Oh.
doubt that she's coming back. But for me, it just kind of feels like, I mean, but you still, when you want to make a sacrifice, and even here when you're building up to it, because this is already planting the seeds for that, it's already hitting those marks of, like, they fight, Glimmer's like, trust me, and Angela doesn't. I feel like maybe, and this is, no, I mean, maybe it's because I'm just losing sympathy for Glimmer in a sense of where I'm just like, you don't give her a reason to trust you. If Glimmer had been open about it, if she had, and Angela was still keeping her back and still keeping her kind of safe and trying to keep her protected, then maybe I can understand Glimmer's side of, like, wanting, of feeling, like, constricted by Angela. I could understand it in that sense.
Glimmer is willing to do whatever it takes.
Which is fine. I'm just saying, like, if we can get more, I feel like if, like, the whole, what's that word? The whole, the weaknesses of Angela, which is like, oh, she's overprotective and all this stuff, and she doesn't let Glimmer, like, do what she wants or whatever. We haven't seen, like, the scene where she tells Glimmer no, except for now. Like, this is, like, one of the few.
Well, it's because Glimmer just does it before she says
exactly,
because
Glimmer does it before she can even tell her no, and I feel like that's the problem. If we got
that's what happens when you can teleport. So
yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if we actually wanted, if Glimmer had actually tried and then been like, all right, now I'm gonna go behind her back, instead of just assuming that Angela was gonna say no, and then being upset with Angela for not trusting her, I'm like, Glimmer, she's not gonna trust you when you keep going behind her back. I mean,
I do think in season 1 they established that Angela doesn't let them do anything.
I think, but like by the end of season 1, Angela, they established that Angela was trusting them more.
Well, I do think. I did think, like, talking about, like, I am your queen, like, you are my commander, and you need to stop. You know, she tears into her a little bit about how reckless she is, and Glimmer is reckless. And I mean, that's part of it also, is like, that's what we're dealing with here. Like, Glimmer makes an impossible choice because they have to get Adora back. And it's not like they have, like, a week to figure this out. Like, I mean, the portal is happening.
I know, and I don't mind. I'm talking about the build up for Angela's eventual sacrifice.
I think the other thing that is bothersome about it too is it's super tropey. Like,
it's one of the things that are very tropey in the show. Yeah,
it's super tropey, and I'm pretty sure, like, we discussed how, like, this show can take tropey things and then turn it into something else, and execute it in a different way that we don't mind it. But this one, like, is hitting the nail right on, like, the head. And so, like, I think that's where, like, my problem is with it, because, like, I agree also, like, Angela didn't, like, it wasn't deserved, her sacrifice, but also, like, this build up to that is so, like, I'm your mom, you have to do what I say. Well, I'm the rebellious kid, I'm not going to. We're gonna fight.
And part of it, this part is rushed.
Yeah, like, it's super rushed.
I mean, this happens, like, very fast, because it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna yell. Okay, we're breaking in. Okay, we're gone. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, for me, like, I don't mind tropes if they're done well.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
like, for me, that's the thing.
Because this was the trope in and of itself. Like, it was not.
I don't think, and I understand that, like, it's easy to get frustrated with Glimmer, but I don't think the problem is Glimmer so much as, like, Angela's not a person.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, I don't mind Glimmer being the rebellious whatever. Like, that's necessary for her. Like, that's fine. And I'm not mad at her for making these reckless choices. Well, it's just, we have to act.
We know Angela's overprotective because she lost her husband. Yeah. But like, that's kind of
enough because they don't develop Angela enough.
Well, they don't really have a relationship. Like, we don't see, honestly, we see more out of the fake world.
I mean, I feel like more like, yes, we see more in the fake world, but I feel like we saw in this, and this is something we talk about, I'm going to mention a little bit later, but we see it in the first season. We establish, because we do see a bit of their relationship in the first season. And we see, for instance, it's the same thing with the princesses. We establish them and who they are as people in the first season, and a little bit in the second season. But then they completely are superficial. They're barely there. The show basically goes from being an ensemble show to being a show about Adora, Glimmer, and Bo, and Catra, Scorpia, and Trapta and Hordak. Like, that's it. And, like, in and of itself, that's an ensemble, but it's like, why are you bothering with telling me about all these other people? Like, because I just don't understand why it's all so superficial with Angela, with
well, I mean, there's a lot going on here. That's
exactly.
The thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you're going to commit to an ensemble cast of like a lot of characters, commit to it. Is my thing. Like, that's my criticism. Like, look, if you had kept the show smaller, if you instead had not put such emphasis in the beginning, then this I wouldn't be that much bothered with. But they did commit to it, and now it's failing.
I mean, they served a purpose, because the season 1 was about, this is about, the beginning was Adora. She switches sides. She's learning that the princesses aren't evil.
I'm just saying, okay, well, what about season 2 then? What about season 2, which is half of this season? Like, this basically was the first half of this season.
Well, season two is, Mara's message, and they learn about the portal. Like, the show shifts.
That's what I'm saying. But that's when it shifts, right? Well, I would have much rather, instead of having episodes dedicated to the team dynamic between the princesses, I would have much rather had an episode dedicated to Angela and Glimmer's relationship, because we know later Angela's going to make the sacrifice. Like, that's what I mean. It's like, if you're not going to have these characters, if there's going to be a shift in these seasons to focus on different things, then maybe you shouldn't have wasted episodes on these other characters that we're barely going to see when this final act happens.
I think, okay, this is a problem with DreamWorks, Netflix and how they're releasing. This is how Avatar and Korra work. Because in The Legend of Korra and Avatar, the seasons are related, but they're contained. So...
but I don't think I think that's that's unfair on, and it's weird to say unfair on DreamWorks and Netflix, because this show was done before Netflix decided how it was going to distribute it. Like, they had already been working on stuff.
That's what I'm talking about. The reason, like, that's how they're treating this, because you have, like, book 1 of Korra is about Amon. You have the season 1. You establish, you have a story to tell. They finish the story. We move on. That's what they're doing here. This is kind of like. Season 1 is the princesses. We're talking about reestablishing the Princess Alliance. And now we're moving on to the portal. Like, all of these elements might tie back again later. I mean, it's not like we don't see them in this season. That
still doesn't answer my problem, which is in the first half of the season, which was season 2. Like, season 2, we did focus on the princesses, an absurd amount, dedicated episodes to them that we didn't need and would have rather been better dedicated to Glimmer and Angela.
So I think I can see it from, like, I totally get you, Beatrice. I think that there should have been more emphasis on Angela, and Glimmer's relationship. And especially, it becomes really apparent whenever, like, they try and make Angela. I'm gonna keep calling her Angela.
It's a tricky name.
Yeah. But, like, especially, like, in episode 4, like, she has a very, like, outright character moment when she stands up to Glimmer. Right. And so in that regard, like, yes, I think that we would have, like, that scene would have been better served if we had that type of episode. But I think what the show likes to do is set up things for the future.
Like, and really, what the beginning sets up is Adora of the season sets up is Adora and Glimmer becoming leaders, and we're leading into Glimmer making the decisions that she made. Because when Adora is gone, Glimmer has to step up. Yeah, and I think, and also, Angela literally disappears at the end of this. Like, she's going to be gone. I mean, I'm very certain that she'll be coming back. But I think that's part of it, is that we had to have this. And it's not perfect. And the thing is, there are not a lot of episodes in these seasons.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I'm like, if there's not that many episodes, you know how many episodes you have. Why are you wasting episodes on frivolous things when you could have planned it out better and actually
I don't think it was frivolous.
Well, I think it's hard. It's also hard to make that call right now when we don't know the scope. Because the thing is, the show keeps changing scope. The first season was just about the princesses. Now we're in season 2, and I know that's what I'm talking about. But halfway through season 2, we find out there's a whole other universe that the planet got taken out of, and so now the scope of the show has completely changed. Like, we're not just dealing with fighting the Horde. We're not even fighting the Horde. We're fighting like 2 soldiers with sticks, and the Horde is actually this giant universal army. So I think that's part of it, is like we went from like small town to like we're in like metropolis dealing with crap right now. So that's the thing, and I do think we're having growing pains. And
and I think the reason for the emphasis too is I think this show does a great job at placing value and strengthen like those friendships and those like really good formed bonds. And so like, it's totally frustrating that Angela and a Glimmer episode didn't happen, but I think that may have been to lay pave the path towards like putting more importance on not just Glimmer and Adora, but also the princesses who will be there to support them as we continue on. And because Glimmer is now in charge of the Alliance. Like, Angela's gone. It's Glimmer and the princesses. That now it's like, that's what it is right now.
Well, if in a future episode is focusing on the princesses and their role, then maybe, but I don't know. I feel like
I agree. Like, it's really frustrating right now. I 100% see like your point of view.
I don't even think it's frustrating. I just think this is like a weak storytelling arc. I think they made a bad call with like, say, like a D&D episode in season 2 that could have been laying the groundwork for Angela's sacrifice.
Well, I think. Well, and see, that's the episode I think of specifically whenever I say, like, they're paving, like they're putting down more of the importance of, like, the friendships versus, like, Glimmer's relationship with her
and
mom.
Really, and also, this is going to be different, too, like, it's not the best trope, but, also, like, Glimmer losing her mom this way might also, like, we're also might be sending Glimmer down a really dark path. Like, we already have this, like the magic thing, and there's just a lot going on.
So is Dark Glimmer a possible future?
Oh, yeah.
Like, is Shadow Weaver, when Shadow Weaver holds her hand, is she not just taking power from Glimmer, but she's also seeping in some like virus, infecting it?
I don't think necessarily that. I don't think that's happening yet. Like, it's not apparent, but I mean, Shadow Weaver was a normal sorceress at one point.
Yeah.
And then she became corrupted by the magic she practiced. So I do think there's definitely a good chance that we will begin to see that corruption, not dissimilar to the corruption we saw with Moon in Star Wars Forces of Evil.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so even though Glimmer, when will the corruption of Glimmer start? Is it with Shadow Weaver continually to use her as a vessel? Or is it when Glimmer herself starts using the dark magic?
Well, I mean, Shadow Weaver, because the thing is, she was using her magic kind of like as needed.
Right.
And so now I think it'll be more like she's going to train Glimmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the other thing that will help build it is just her growing frustrations now that she has to take over all of her mom's responsibilities. So I think it's just going to be kind of one of those, like, she is going to turn to Shadow Weaver as sort of a parental figure. And
Shadow Weaver's everybody's mom now.
Yeah, Shadow Weaver's, she's my mom, she's your mom, she's Glimmer's mom. But I think that's could be what they do, like, is in terms of like the dark glimmer thing is, and maybe it'll be like one of those, like, she doesn't realize the change until like she's already like pretty well infected. So I feel like we could easily get rid of Shadow Weaver, and we could easily play the like, okay, like, you're infected kind of thing. Like, we could easily do that. It would be more interesting to see kind of what type of relationship unfolds between Glimmer and Shadow Weaver, and that may make for better story, but it could also be like a waste of our time, and it may like serve the show better to just, you know, slowly start to jump into Dark Glimmer. Gotcha.
Well, that was basically plot A, which is just the kind of the turn where Glimmer finally takes Shadow Weaver's hand. And then we get plot B in this one,
which is Catra going cray.
Which is Catra going insane. Oh, Catra. So we could just start with let's just talk about Entrap Deck for a second.
Oh God.
Just briefly, I just think it's genius. Whether you think it's a romantic friendship, whatever it is, it's genius to use that suddenly their relationship, in whatever sense of that word you want to use, suddenly that's what causes conflict between them and their goals. Because, you know, if Entrapta opens the portal, Hordak has to go away. And it's like the adorableness of like them trying to be like, oh, well, there's still more tests. Like, we can push it off. And I'm just like, you don't have to even do it. Just stay together and it'd be great.
They're best friends. It's great.
Yeah, they're best, sure. You know, best friends are the best partners. And here comes Catra giving them everything they need, so they have no excuse to delay the portal opening. And we get some very interesting kind of dynamics. So we get, for instance, finally Hordak and Adora meeting. And, well, not meeting for the first time, but like finally having like some sort of like interaction, right? So like, one, Hordak is like, I don't know who you, like, I don't care about you. Like, I don't know who you are, whatever, which is interesting. It makes me think, does the Horde not value Shira? Like, does Hordak not think that being Shira is that special?
Well, that would make sense, though, because, like, you know, prior to this, like, Catra and, like, Shadow Weaver were so very focused on, like, Adora, and then, you know, Adora / Shira, and that would explain why Hordak is just, like, had been, you know, sort of like, I don't care, because he doesn't care. Like,
well, he only cares about the portal. She is literally, like, the least of his worries.
Mm-hmm. He's like, It's a problem, why can't you just deal with it? Like, it bears, like, no weight to him at all. In any way, shape, or form. He's like, what even is a Shira? Like,
see, but I'm thinking it's not that what even is a Shira. I think it's just that him, Shira is something normal. Like, it's not something mystical or whatever. So he just thinks like, I don't fear you. I don't think you're that, you know, maybe he's seeing other types of Shiras. Maybe he's familiar with Mara's Shira.
He's also a clone. Like, I mean, his suspension of disbelief is a little bit higher than the rest of us.
Exactly. But, and then we get this very interesting thing with Entrapta and Adora, where we finally get Adora's side of the story with Entrapta being like, look, we didn't know that you were alive. We finally get that conversation. So now there's no longer kind of Entrapta thinking otherwise. Also really sad that Entrapta sees Catra as a friend, and then Catra betrays her in the worst way.
Yeah, I can definitely, like, that was a little heartbreaking. But again, like, it just kind of adds
lies.
Yep.
That's the meanest thing. That's the thing I will never forgive Catra for.
Yeah, she, you know, and Adora said it. Catra says things to get what she wants, which is what she does with Hordak. She tells him, Entrapta's the one who let them in. And then all of Hordak's insecurities make him believe her. And, oh, poor Hordak. I hate the show I love the show. But, like, I if you had asked me in season 1 if I would ever go, oh, poor Hordak, I would have said you were mad. But then we get finally we get Shadow Weaver and the gang in the Horde. They've broken in via Glimmer, and then we get this like boom boom boom, like each princess goes, I'll handle this, you go ahead, which I found very annoying because I was like, really? Like, if that's how it was gonna be, then they shouldn't have come. But sure. And then we get this really interesting scene between Scorpia and Entrapta, which is interesting because it's like that is the friendship they need, right? Like, they're both like Scorpia is so focused on and I'm not like, I don't know, I just think like, see, this is like the person you go to when you want to complain about your significant other when they're acting evil and annoying. Like, I don't know, I think that friendship needs to be explored more because they're great together, Scorpia and Entrapta.
They're both sweet, like, and very, I guess, like, there's a certain, like, innocence to them. You know what I mean? Like, especially whenever, like, Entrapta, is like, oh, like, Catra's my friend. And you're like, oh, like, you would think that. Okay, cutie. Like, not to, like, look down on Entrapta, because it's interesting because whenever the show first started, Entrapta was probably my least favorite princess, and she's very, very much grown on me. So we've also gotten to see a lot of her and got to know her more. And I think that was probably, like, my biggest qualm was I was just like, oh, I don't really know Entrapta, but I like her, and I feel bad for her.
Yeah. Before we get into Catra attacking Entrapta, we get this very interesting fight between Shadow Weaver and Catra. And it's interesting how Catra goes, you made me this way, and you get to be the good guy. Once again, Catra playing the victim and saying, and again, Shadow Weaver offers her a way out. Shadow Weaver tells her, you can come with me. Like, you don't have to be here anymore. And she still says no.
Yeah. It's hard.
But then on that same breath, she goes like, you couldn't wait to get away from here from me, but you came back for Adora. And then starts to cry. So it's kind of like, oh man, it's like every time it's frustrating. She also hits you with like, yeah, but also you feel very bad for me because of my situation, which is part of the strength of Catra, at least as a viewer.
I think that's just such like I understand Catra, I guess, like perceiving it that way, but it's just such an interesting way to like interpret that situation because like and it's probably also too because like we got to see the other side. Like we know that Shadow Weaver is there because Glimmer was like, I need to get there and you can help me kind of situation. But like it's just I don't know. I'm like fascinated with like that thought process of, and I mean maybe I've had those type of thoughts before, but just not so like blatantly.
Right.
Like I feel like that level of like depression within myself is a little bit more less blunt. So
Gotcha. But there's like a pretty dark moment where Glimmer was Glimmer gonna let Shadow Weaver kill Catra?
I don't know.
Because Bo is the one who intervened.
I thought she told her to stop.
Yeah.
No, Bo was the one who said stop. Bo was the one who intervened and said, and was like the moral compass and goes like, enough, you're taking, and it's not even to save Catra and to stop her from committing murder. It was, you're taking too much of Glimmer's health. Like Glimmer wasn't saying anything.
Yeah.
Glimmer was just like there.
Well,
Bo was the one who intervened.
Well, and Shadow Weaver is, I feel like also like Shadow Weaver is kind of playing like this very like sideline character. And so it's hard to tell like where that was coming from. Like I can see where Bo would see that like this is Shadow Weaver's doing, but who's to say it wasn't also Glimmer's doing? You know what I mean? Like,
right. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's interesting how like even if Glimmer had said like no, and Shadow Weaver had still been doing it, and then Bo intervened, then it would have been like, all right, well, clearly Glimmer didn't want But that's what I mean. That's already planting the seeds of like Glimmer having this kind of darker kind of like you already start seeing her think of like whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. And it's like, well, what if you do something wrong during that process? And we kind of saw a little bit of that in season 2 when Catra was captured by them, by Beau and Glimmer, and Beau again was the one who was kind of like the moral compass and being like, we can't sink to their level.
Yeah.
And then like, well, then it ties back in this moment where it's like, once again, you have an instance where Catra might die and then by whatever, and Glimmer doesn't do anything. So and Beau once again is the moral compass. So it's interesting how Beau's role in the potential Dark Glimmer storyline, his role, I feel like that's going to cause some major tension between the two of them that I cannot wait to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, especially because we've already seen tension between them before.
Right.
And so it'll be, but previously it mostly came from Glimmer, and so it'll be interesting to see it like resonate with Beau more.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be Beau who's going to be the more like frustrated one. Just given who we know Glimmer to be. Like she, not to like make it sound mean, but she can be like a little like strong-willed and bullheaded. And so and again, like Beau's always been that person to kind of rein her back. But like, is she going to start down a path of like, okay, Beau, well, like I'm in charge, like I have to make this decision and this is the decision I'm going to make no matter what you say, like that type of scenario. But then that would also like make the scene between Glimmer and Angela a little bit more weighted in the fact that like Angela like sort of put her foot down and was just like, I'm your queen, you're my general. And so I wonder if Glimmer will have a parallel scene later on down the road.
Yeah, I mean, she's gonna be queen now, so
yep.
Maybe. So yeah, Catra sends Entrapta to Beast Island.
Yep.
How dare she? And then she lies to Hordak. And what's a really cute moment where Hordak basically starts with, where's Entrapta? I need her. He needs her, people. And then Catra goes, you can't trust a princess. They'll just use you to get what they want, which is basically what Catra is. She's just going to use you to get what they want. What she wants, rather.
Mm-hmm.
And then she pulls the switch. Like, Hordak can't pull the switch. He's nowhere near it. It's completely her choice. There's not even Hordak telling her to pull the switch. She's just
like, let's do it.
Yep. She's the one who does it. It's completely her choice. Is this the lowest that Catra's gonna go? Like, is this her rock bottom, or is there more?
How can we go lower? How? She ruined the world.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what I'm asking. Is there potential? I'm not asking for specifics, just is there potential?
It would be really interesting to see how much further she could potentially go. You know what I mean? Like, especially because we have an entire universe and dimension of possibilities. So, like, where does Catra's like ruthlessness end? You know?
Right. I mean, it could be like this is. I mean, it could be more of now that she's made this choice, she's now going to commit to it full on. And she's just going to keep doing bad things, but not feel as bad because it's like, well, I can't look back now. Maybe that's how it's going to go. And
I mean, again, like we've already seen sort of Catra not caring, but that was kind of like a positive, like sort of, I say it was positive in the fact that like Catra was happy out of this. But I don't think that Catra will ever find happiness, even if she does destroy the world. And so I think rock bottom for her is going to be realizing that you, like, no matter what you do, you're not going to be happy unless you change.
Right.
So
I mean, because
she's stuck with Hordak. Like, that can't be that much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, she does see like that look Adora gives her and her reaction to that look. Well, that's later. That's in episode 6. But there is like that hint of like maybe she does realize, like maybe all this time she's thought, well, no matter what, Adora's eventually going to return back to me and come back to me, and we're going to be pals again. It doesn't matter. You know, it's kind of like that promise, like good or bad, whatever happens, I'll always be by your side, right? Well, maybe this is the moment she realizes, like, oh no, I did cross a line. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But let's just wrap up the conversation with where do these 2 episodes rank for you in comparison to the rest of the season? And where do these 2 episodes rank for you overall from what we've gotten from Shira these past 3 seasons? April.
I would say they're pretty high. It's really hard to say. I'm trying to think now if there's any like episodes that I guess stand out more to me. I know there was like a couple of really strong episodes in like season 1. Season 2 was very kind of like meh-ish for me. But I would say these episodes are pretty high up there. I think there's an episode like coming up in this season that I like just a little bit more. And I thought, that I thought was like better done. And that's to say, like, in terms of like, there's like some episodes that are very, very well done, but may not necessarily be my favorite either. So,
gotcha.
It's really hard. I'm like, can I build like 2 different lists? Like, like these ones are extremely well done. These ones like are what I care for.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What about you, Delaney? What episodes did you like? Where do these episodes rank for you?
I do think episode 3 is like up there. Like it's probably like number 2, number 1 with the episode before it. And I mean 4 is really good too, but I don't think it's as high as 3.
And that's in the season or
in the
overall
season.
In general?
Overall in general, I do think 3 is like top 5.
Gotcha. Cool. That's very high. Yeah, I don't know where to rank these. I think 3 is higher than 4, but I think 4. I don't know in comparison to like I think that I agree with April that there's like a certain episode later on that I think is a little stronger. Just like in terms of like, I just like what they've done. They did just a little bit better. And then overall, I mean, to be frank, I don't remember certain episodes of the previous seasons well enough in terms of quality that I'm like, oh yes, this is clearly superior.
Yeah.
I know. I still think like maybe like the Promise episode I think is still there.
That's the one that I was thinking of too.
Yeah, that's the one that one's still up there for me as like untoppled. But yeah, any last thoughts on these 2 episodes before we go, or are we good?
I'm good. I
think I'm good.
I think we like super covered everything.
We covered it. All right, cool. You can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, John, aka Johnny Bravo. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, Hugh, Michael, and Needle. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.